Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. So today is kind of part 2 of my trike build. And I basically wanted to go over what I learned in case you ever wanted to build one, that it might help you. So first of all, here is a small clip of me riding it. All right, it's a ball riding this thing, I'm not gonna lie. I think I have more fun than my kids. But let's go ahead, let's do a quick walk around of it, and let me show you what I learned. So, this is the trike. If you're not familiar with the first video, I'll put a link in the description below to show you what we did. So this is a BMX front end. This is an old high chair I got at a rummage sale, and just literally everything else is parts I had around the house except for like the engine, which is $100 at Harbor Freight, and an axle kit. First of all, if you're gonna build this thing, make sure you put brakes on it. And I don't mean the stock V brakes. Yeah, these things are great, but with me on it, this thing's probably 250, 260 pounds, and it takes only 3 houses to stop. Not a big deal, but 3 houses is a little bit farther than I want. You don't want to go through an intersection. So the axle kit that I bought, and one of the reasons it was so expensive, is it came with a hydraulic disc brake. Let me show you that. This right here is a hydraulic disc brake. And I actually had to have them send me a new one. The one they sent me didn't fit, so I cut off the mounting bracket. I made a new one, but here it is. Hydraulic disc brake. And it's just zip tied up right now until I find a better way to route it. And here's the actuator. And I just made a nice handbrake. For those of you wondering, why did I do a handbrake right here? Well, I wanted to make sure if my kids are pulling the handbrake, their hand was off the throttle. So here's your throttle. You can hear that going. I want to make sure they took the hand off the throttle to hit the brake. Safety issues. Next thing I learned was your chain. So on this one, the mounting plate for the engine is adjustable, and there's some slack, you can put in it. But what I wish I would have done was put just like a spring-loaded chain tensioner. Let me show you. So this is my little 125 Coaster quad, and here is the automatic chain tensioner. It is literally just spring-loaded, and it goes on there. And I wish I would have done something like this on the trike. So the next thing I learned was, well, when I originally did all the measurements, I had this thing where I was gonna weld the front fork with the neck of the bike with no tire on it. I got in a hurry, so I welded it on with the tire on her. I actually had to go back, and I showed you guys this, how I had to put a plate there. I had to take and cut right up here with a Sawzall. I did 4 cuts. I bent it down, and that's why you'll see this bend to get this off the ground. Because I am using the bigger tires, it sits us a little bit higher up. So honestly, that tip is just take your time. I got in a hurry, my kids were wanting to go, and it's not their fault, it's my fault, so take your time, have some fun. I probably still would have gusseted it on the bottom. There's a lot of stress. I mean, this thing was originally triangulated, and if you remember, I cut the top tube off, so it made a lot of stress on this one piece. Really don't have any issues, and make sure it's square when you weld it up. The next thing I learned is I did cheap out on a few things. I'm just trying to do this on a budget. I have just over $300, like 310 or 20 bucks in this. Mind you, the axle kit was like 150 something. The engine was 100 bucks. And then miscellaneous parts, like the throttle here was 10 or 12 bucks. Instead of cheaping out, as I bought a 29-inch axle. I should have bought the 32-inch just to make it a little bit more stable. It's really good with me on it. It's good with the kids on there. But honestly, a little bit wider isn't better. I know it was only like $20 more for a 3-inch wider axle, but it would make a huge difference. The next thing is honestly, if I can find a set of like go-kart rims and tires for like 50 or 60 bucks, I don't care if they're used, I would get rid of these big tires. This thing does 27 miles an hour with me on it and these big tires. Smaller tires will slow it down just a little bit. Remember, I did not modify this engine at all. It is a stock Harbor Freight Predator 212 engine. So 27 miles an hour on it with me, it's pretty good. For those wondering, those tires are 14.5 inches tall. So to drop it back down to a 10 or 11 inch tire, should put a top speed around 20 miles an hour. Next thing, if you notice, I have one of the barrel ends on and one not. There's a reason I did this. So both barrel ends, this thing is a ball to ride, but you want to talk about taking some skill. With no barrel ends, this thing does not hardly turn at all. And that's because it's a locked axle. It's a locked differential, essentially, in your pickup, your car, whatever. So when one tire spins, they both spin. So to make it easier, kind of like a limited slip or an open axle on turning, I leave just one of these barrels on. If you're wondering how I get them on, I literally let all the air out of the tire, I squeeze it on, and then I pump the tire up, and just the friction right there holds it on. So the next tip is, I probably would have made this just a little bit longer for me, but honestly it was for my kids. I did make the seat adjustable. All I gotta do is drill a couple more holes because the seat is just bolted on. I got 4 bolts down there, just bolted on, drill a couple more holes 2 inches farther forward, and it'll fit perfect. So the last thing I learned is this is a ball, and it is a great thing to build with your kids. If you don't have kids, it's still fun to build, but honestly, my kids were so amped up. So the deal was, when their homework was done, the rooms are clean, all that stuff was good to go, and their chores were completed, we'd come out to the garage and we could build this. We literally built this in 2 days. Probably could have had it built in 1 day, but between filming and having them help. My kids like to weld. They're actually doing their chores right now. They want to come out here and practice welding. As you can see, I've kind of cleared the garage out. First of all, to clean it, and second of all, so they can get out here and we can have more than one welder going, because we got the TIG welder here that'll set up for stick for one of them, and then we got the wire feed over there for the flux core for the other. You gotta start somewhere, right? So this is a great project. Get your kids off video games, it gets them out there, and honestly, you can do this, like I said, for around $300, even cheaper if you got more stuff laying around the house. The 2 big items I bought was the engine and the axle, and then, you know, you got your throttle here, which is 10, 12 bucks. But a lot of people have stuff laying around their house. They got old bikes laying around. You know, if I would have had like a flat tractor seat or an old school chair, or even like my stool there, I just don't want to cut that thing up because I use that on the workbench. You can save you more money. I mean, I've even seen it to where people built these things as straight up angle iron and bolts. All you need is a Sawzall or a grinder to cut everything up, and then using a drill. And you could bolt one of these things together. I've seen a few tutorials online. I've seen people make electric ones, whatever. Just have fun and get out in the garage and work on things with your kids. So I hope you enjoyed the project. I know it's a short video, but don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and until next time.